Hello, everyone. It's Karen again at Soul Symbols Astrology. You're really welcome here. Absolutely welcome. And before I begin, I want to say a massive thank you to those of you who have subscribed and commented. It means a lot to me, and it helps to get, particularly the comments, it helps to get the video out to more people. It's pesky algorithm thing. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about, in this week's astrology, the new moon in Pisces, which is happening on the 19th of March, and it's at 28 degrees of Pisces. So we're arriving here at a very tender and liminal point in the zodiac. It's the end of the zodiac, just before the new astrological year. So a new moon is always a seeding moment. It's that place where the sun and the moon come together and where solar and lunar principles are joined. And so we're speaking about the union of life force and embodiment, the sun and the moon, the spirit and the soul, or father and mother, masculine, feminine, yin, yang, however you like to look at that. So this happens every time. There's something very fundamental in every new moon, because it's asking us about the relationship between those two lights, those two luminaries within us. And it's asking whether there's harmony there or whether life is flowing well through us. Excuse me. And it's also asking us if there's a natural exchange between our efforts and our receptivity, but also between our vitality and our feeling, our action and rest. Now, in Pisces, that question becomes even more subtle for us, because Pisces is not only about feeling in a personal sense. Pisces brings us into the deeper currents of life. It's bringing us to that flow of time and into the flow of consciousness, into the strange and difficult to define relationship between our minds, body, soul, and spirit. And under Pisces, time itself can behave differently. I'm a Pisces rising, and I observe that. It can move in a dreamlike blur. That's the only way I can explain it. And you've probably had this happen to yourself and pass before we've kind of grasped onto it, or it can feel like thick and suspended somehow. So those two qualities, it's as though we're waiting in some threshold space for something to shift, and they can be happening at the same time. It's a very strange perception of time. So this new moon in Pisces is asking us to notice where our energy is flowing, where we're leaking energy, but also to look where the energy is pooling, where it's become blocked. And this may be an invitation for us to come back to a more natural rhythm with ourselves. And this new moon also comes very soon after the lunar eclipse we've just had in Virgo on the 3rd of March. And that is important because Virgo and Pisces belong to that same, but opposite that same axis. So the lunar eclipse in Virgo brought a reset in lunar matters through the sign of Virgo. And so with Virgo, there was something there about embodiment, regulation, care, home, health, nurture, all those details, daily life. And Virgo is very practical, so about the practical conditions that are supporting our life. Virgo was asking us during that lunar eclipse what's working and what isn't, maybe looking at what needs tending to and what needs correcting or refining. So Virgo was bringing us into the logistics of care. It's asking us how we prepare, how we serve, how we make ourselves ready. It's those kind of questions we were looking at and looking to move on and prune where we needed to prune in the waning section. But now, as this new moon arrives in Pisces, we move into the other side of that axis. And Pisces is, we could look at it like Pisces asking us, what's that service for? It's a nice service. What's it for? So Virgo serves in the material realm in that sense. But Virgo serves in that realm of consciousness, soul, spirit, dream. It can be about our compassion, our faith in things. So this new moon in Pisces is not only asking us how we care for life, but what deeper current of meaning we are trying to serve through our lives. So more of a deep dive. It's water, it's oceanic. Okay. So it's not what's on the surface of the earth, it's what's below in the deep oceanic waters. So it's asking us what dream is trying to come through embodiment. It's also asking us what the soul is trying to seed here, and that is incredibly important. So the ruler of this new moon is Jupiter, and I have two in-depth. One is an in-depth look of hyper-reality with Jupiter, another more general look at Jupiter. I'll pop them up there. So Jupiter, as I said in those videos, is direct in Cancer, and he's strong here, he's exalted. And that's a beautiful testimony in our sky and in this chart. It means that the ruler of the lunation is strong, and when the ruler is strong, it tells us that whatever is being seeded here has more support. So Jupiter in Cancer is bringing meaning through nourishment, protection, via our feelings, memory, and memory has got a lot to do with the moon and our sense of belonging. And it's that restoration of what truly sustains us. But there's something deeply life-giving about Jupiter in Cancer, because he's not just expanding for the sake of expansion. As I said in my last video, he's enlarging our sense of what feeds life and what protects life and what is allowing life to grow. And we also have Pisces and Cancer in a whole sign trine. Okay, they're 120 degrees from each other. They're both water. So there's a beautiful current of ease between the new moon and the ruler of it, Jupiter. The seed of this new moon is being fed by Jupiter. It's the only way I can express this. It's being blessed by Jupiter. So even though Pisces can at times feel diffuse or uncertain, it's not a lunation without coherence. Jupiter is bringing that to us. He's all about coherence. So there's a real possibility here for healing and restoration, or for bringing harmony back to places that have felt out of rhythm for us. There's meaning available here, and perhaps even grace. Some people don't like that word, grace, but yeah. And I think this is one of the most important things about this new moon, because the sun and the moon together are always alchemical. They're always doing a little bit of alchemy. But they always speak of union, of conjunction, of bringing together of two principles that are often experienced as distinct and polarized at times. But here in Pisces, with Jupiter exalted in Cancer, that alchemy feels especially potent. We're looking at the union of day and night, sun and moon, yeah, of fire and water, of spirit and soul and action and receptivity. So we're looking at the possibility that what has been divided within us might be brought into a more living relationship. And because the sun and moon can also be read symbolically as father and mother, this new moon may bring up our relationship to our parents, or the inner patterns that those principles represent. So it can be in anything. It may show us where our life force has been supported and where it hasn't. And it may show us where vitality and nurture have been working together, and also where they might have fallen apart. So there's something here about bringing harmony to imbalance within us and outside of us also. There's something here about restoring a steadier inflow and outflow of life force, that kind of more cyclical in, out, feeling vibe to it. And perhaps that is part of what's being seeded now, because this is a last new moon before our astrological new moon in Aries, our new year. It begins that new year, the new moon in Aries. So Pisces, it can feel like a final threshold again. We seem to be littered with thresholds over the past few months. So it's that sense of feel or energetic that before the fire of Aries arrives, because that's fire, something in Pisces is being washed, blessed, reconciled, and brought back into flow. But at the same time, it's not a soft, dreamy, floaty Pisces new moon. It's at the 28th degree of Pisces, and with Hellenistic astrology, it's falling into what's called the bound of Saturn and the face of Mars, the decan of Mars, and that gives this lunation a really particular tone, because Saturn brings seriousness, gravitas. He's about necessity, endings, maturity, and it's that awareness that he's bringing here, that not everything can remain exactly as it has been. And then we have Mars, the decan ruler. I mean, Mars in the tarot is the tower. So he's bringing his bulldozer, okay? He's bringing heat, force, urgency, and that need to act with intention. So, yeah, the moon's in Pisces, but it's not asking us, to drift along, float on our backs through the ocean. It's asking us to participate consciously in the process of release, integration, and rebalancing. So there's a call here to take responsibility for what is out of harmony and to meet that honestly. And that can be difficult sometimes. And this is also reinforced by the fact that Mercury retrograde and Mars are also in Pisces with this new moon. They had a conjunction a few days ago. So Mercury retrograde in Pisces, he's not operating through sharp distinctions or clean analysis. Again, if you want to know about Mercury retrograde and how it's expressing, maybe I'll pop that up there too. He's in Gemini and Virgo, he's very detail orientated, okay, and analytical. But in Pisces, he's not speaking in that dry, factual way. He's speaking as the oracle through image, dreams, through our memories and intuition, and it can even be within the energetic atmosphere he speaks and symbol and feeling. He's asking us to listen differently. He's asking us to revisit and reflect and to retrieve or hear what we missed or what we potentially missed, unless you're a very good listener. There's something inward in Mercury retrograde in Pisces and also something metaphysical there. The mind might not be moving in a straight line, but it may be moving towards a kind of truth. Mars beside Mercury, I think they're still in connection at this new moon, or they're very close. They're co-present anyway. Mars with Mercury is going to bring passion and force to all of that, and it can give us a mental determination, that will to push through, and a desire to identify the things that have been hidden, and perhaps also courage to reconcile where any division has taken root, whether that's within us or outside of us, it's external. At its best, there can be a passion here, not only to think, but to unite and forgive, find meaning, and to act on behalf of what is compassionate and true. Mars in Pisces is not always direct in the way, Mars prefers to be. He likes to get his knife and go slice it, okay? But it can act in service of the soul, that is for sure. It can act on behalf of what is tender, what's meaningful or spiritual, those things that we deeply, deeply feel. But there is a shadow side to all of this, as there always is. So Pisces can sometimes move towards escapism, over identification with feeling. We can have overindulgence here, or martyrdom, becoming the martyr to something, or victimhood indeed here. And with the sun and the moon together, we're dealing with the alchemy of polarity, but also a risk of being one-sided. And one of the challenges here is that we can feel ourselves pulled in two different directions. I mean, Pisces is the fish tied at the tail, swimming in different directions. So we might swing between things like effort and exhaustion, or, having that longing within us and then feeling really depleted, or to have inspiration then fall into some kind of collapse or disbelief of it. We might overgive and then crash. And there's also the possibility of trying to transcend something when what's really needed is to inhabit it more honestly. The deeper invitation of this new moon isn't to eliminate those tensions, but to hold them consciously. As I said, Pisces, the two fishes, it's immutable. It's a double-bodied sign. So it contains movement, plurality, and often contradiction. It's as simple as that. The two fish, as I said, tied at the tail, swimming in different directions. So we may genuinely feel those two currents at work within us. We might feel that pull to surrender. Yeah, I'm going to surrender it all. But then the need to go back to trying to control a situation. So that longing to retreat as well, we can have while experiencing an overwhelming need to act here. And then we can have that devotion and confusion. Now, what else can we have? We can feel tenderness and then a complete fatigue. That comes up a lot, and hope and grief together. And perhaps the work here is not to force one of those currents to win, but to allow Jupiter, as ruler of the lunation, to do what Jupiter does best, and to gather those parts into a larger and more meaningful whole, to have coherence, to bring a coherence to the paradoxes, to the polarity that we may be experiencing. And this is really where the practical work of the new moon begins, because Pisces is often that energetic that stays in the background. It's not, out there visible performance often. It's not asking for force or forcing things forward. There's an asking for attunement and alignment with Pisces. So maybe a need to notice very honestly where our lives are not flowing well. Look where your energy may be leaking, or that you're overgiving, overthinking, and we have got Mercury there, or overfeeling and carrying something that's just run its course that should be let go of. So really, to be looking at where you've got out of rhythm with yourself. So this new moon is likely to be less about making ambitious declarations and more about drawing your energy back from what depletes you, and doing that with gentleness rather than, criticism, self-punishment. Check out your energy, people. And because the sun and moon are coming together here, there's also something very helpful in tending the relationship between vitality and nurture. So one way of working with this new moon is asking what genuinely helps you to feel steadier, safer, more nourished, and more in rhythm with yourself. And that could be just something really simple. Rest. Maybe that you just need more rest, or a quieter day, or making more space around yourself, taking up space even. It could be just nourishment food, with that Jupiter, that food that truly supports you. Time near water, I think I spoke about that before, and a return to prayer, meditation, the more creative aspects of Pisces, music, artwork, journaling, dream work. Or it could be as simple as letting your body speak before your mind rushes to interpret everything. So just sit with your body and listen to it. So you can get a lot of information from there. Your body is so intuitive. Jupiter in Cancer, the ruler of this new moon, suggests that healing may come through really humble acts of care, through our home and memories, warmth, emotional honesty, and a restoration of what feels protective and real for us. And with that Mercury retrograde in Pisces, it's also a time to listen rather than kind of push and force that clarity. You might not need immediate answers under this new moon. You may need to sit with an image or a dream, memory, or a feeling that keeps surfacing. And you might need to write something down, return to an old conversation, and have fresh compassion for that old conversation, or just allow something unresolved to reveal itself without trying to pin it down too quickly. Analyze it and have your plan of action. It's not the kind of lunation that is going to be demanding a 5 or 10 step plan right now. It's asking for quiet intelligence, so that kind that is listening beneath all the noise, and that is allowing what's been blurred or buried to come gradually into view. So the Mars that's co-present here at this new moon in Pisces is also suggesting that action is still needed, but it may begin inwardly before it's expressed outwardly. So working with this new moon may look like quiet and meaningful choices, even if it's just one. It may be ending something that drains you, or stepping back from a pattern that scatters your energy. I mean, yeah, that speaks to me, that one. And it may be creating a soft but real boundary, not harsh knife slicing, sword slicing boundaries that often Mars gives us, but a soft boundary, a real one. And it may be giving some form to a spiritual creative practice that so far has been kind of in your imagination, in your longing, your desire. And Saturn's influence here is reminding us, because it's in Saturn's bounds, and it's reminding us that flow doesn't come from having no container at all. Flow returns when we build a vessel for it. And Saturn also is very much about boundaries. So something that allows energy to move without it spilling everywhere. So building our riverbanks here to kind of direct our water energy flow. And the other thing with this new moon is that it is in a sextile with Uranus at 28 degrees Taurus. So this is suggesting that there is that possibility of breakthrough here. So there can be liberation from an old pattern. There can be a surprising movement forward. We may find a new creative freedom here. Fresh vitality or real originality that begins to emerge as we release all those things that have just become stagnant. But even here, the same principle applies. That breakthrough needs a grounding. Any freedom will need a vessel, a container to move through. Otherwise, liberation can become volatility rather than creation. It can be rebellion for rebellion's sake. So there may also be something powerful in doing one thing differently under this new moon. We got enough pressure on us. One thing, not changing everything, but changing one small pattern, responding differently, where you repeat the old story, letting yourself be a little freer, a little more honest, a little less bound to the habits that keep you circling in those same emotional waters. The breakthrough here might not arrive dramatically. It might come quietly trickling in the moment you realize that you don't have to keep living that same rhythm that's been exhausting you. So overall, this new moon in Pisces feels like a threshold of release before a new beginning. At 28 degrees of Pisces, it's not a simple beginning in the usual sense. It's a beginning through ending, and we're seeding in surrender. So it's like renewal that comes by restoring flow where something's been blocked, exhausted, or pulled out of balance. Before Aries begins the new astrological year, Pisces is offering us one final act of clearing, blessing, softening, and re-harmonising. This is a new moon that asks what within us is out of rhythm, what needs washing through, what needs reconciling, and what needs to be just blessed and released. Okay. And with Jupiter exalted in Cancer ruling the lunation, there's just beautiful, real support for that work. There's a warmth here and meaning here. There's nourishment here. And there is a possibility of bringing body and soul, effort and surrender, vitality and feeling back into steadier relationship with one another, back into more of a cycle than a linear line where they sit opposed. We can alchemize them into a cycle. So perhaps that's the seed of this new moon, not certainty, not control, not immediate clarity, but a return to flow, a return to inner coherence, and to the deeper stream of life that knows how to move when we stop gripping so tightly and begin listening for what the soul is trying to grow. And so this new moon in Pisces is inviting us not to force what's not yet ready, but to listen for what's quietly trying to return to harmony within us. Before the astrological year begins again in Aries, there's a blessing here in softening, in releasing and allowing life to find its rhythm once more. So be gentle with yourself under this new moon. Trust what's being washed through or washed out, and notice what new seed is beginning to take root in the deeper waters of your soul. So that's what I have for you. Thank you so much for being here with me. And if you enjoyed, do the business. Like, subscribe, comment, turn on your notifications, because I sometimes pop in with a little podcast or something different, and you'll know when I put something up. And as usual, if you want a reading, a personal reading, pop over to soulsymbols.co.uk, and there's an easy booking system there. Okay, have a wonderful new moon. Let me know how it goes for you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.